The sound of a violin drifted softly through the coastal breeze as guests in tailored suits and sparkling gowns gathered in the sprawling backyard of a luxurious Hamptons estate. At the altar, Caleb Morgan, heir to a multi-billion-dollar medical conglomerate, stood frozen in place. His bride-to-be, Amelia, clutched his arm tightly, her diamond bracelet biting into his skin. A black helicopter descended with slow menace, its blades slicing the calm afternoon air. All 300 guests turned, gilding their eyes, as the aircraft landed on the estate's private helipad. From it stepped a poised woman in a pristine ivory pantsuit. Her honey blonde hair billowed in the wind. But it was the two small children beside her, twins, a boy and a girl, no older than 6, that stole the breath from the crowd. Amelia gasped. "Who is she?" she whispered, but Caleb couldn't answer. His face had gone pale. The boy had his eyes. 6 years ago, Caleb and Evelyn Winters had been America's golden couple. He, the charming CEO in waiting. She, a pioneering cancer researcher. Their weddings had made headlines. Their love seemed untouchable. But in one single night, lies and betrayal shattered everything. And now Evelyn was back, with secrets that would destroy his world. 6 years earlier, Caleb Morgan and Evelyn Winters were the embodiment of ambition and love. Caleb, the suave heir to Morgan Biosolutions, had captivated Wall Street and Washington alike with his business acumen. Evelyn, a groundbreaking biochemist, had already saved hundreds of lives through her revolutionary cancer therapies. Their wedding, held in the same garden, now adorned for Caleb's second attempt at matrimony, had been hailed as the union of science and power. But beneath their picture-perfect life, cracks had begun to form. The first tremor came in the shape of Owen, Caleb's oldest friend and newly appointed CFO at Morgan Biosolutions. And with Owen came his sister, the ever-smiling too-perfect Amelia. They inserted themselves into every facet of Caleb and Evelyn's lives. Dinner parties, charity galas, even private vacations. What no one saw coming was the storm that Owen and Amelia were carefully engineering behind the scenes. It started one chilly October evening. Evelyn, wrapped in her robe, stepped out of their bathroom to find Caleb sitting on the edge of their bed, her phone clutched tightly in his hand. His face, once full of warmth, was a terrifying mask of rage. "Who is Daniel?" His voice was razor sharp. Evelyn blinked. "Daniel? Don't lie to me." He thrust the phone toward her. Dozens of explicit messages lit up the screen. Conversations she had never seen. Plans she never made. Words she would never write. "This isn't me," she whispered. "These messages, they're fake." Caleb's breath came in sharp bursts. "He knew things. About our bedroom. About your perfume. You've been cheating on me while I was in Geneva for negotiations." "No, Caleb, please. Think logically. Why would I cheat when we're trying to have a baby?" "I don't know this, Daniel. Someone planted this." Just then, Owen entered the room, uninvited. He carried a small velvet pouch and dropped it into Caleb's hand. Security found these in her car. Inside were a man's watch and a hotel key card. Evelyn gasped. "That's not mine. I've never seen that." Caleb pulled back, as though her very presence was poison. "Get out," he hissed. "Caleb, please," she cried. "Get out." As soon as the door opened, Owen stood there and signaled to the waiting guards. "We've started divorce proceedings," he said coldly. "You'll be notified tomorrow morning." Moments later, Evelyn stood barefoot on the gravel driveway, her belongings thrown into the trunk of her car. Rain began to fall. Her phone buzzed. Access revoked. Email terminated. Bank accounts frozen. The man who had once vowed to love and protect her had cast her out like a criminal, alone and utterly destroyed. 2 hours after being thrown out of her own home, Evelyn sat shaking in the parking lot of a 24-hour pharmacy. Her fingers trembled as she opened a plastic bag containing a single pregnancy test. The store's fluorescent lights flickered above her in the sterile bathroom, casting ghostly shadows on her pale face. 3 minutes later, everything changed. 2 pink lines. She was pregnant with Caleb's child. A sob tore from her throat as she collapsed against the bathroom wall. Her mind reeled. She had nothing, no home, no money, no reputation. And now, she was carrying the child of the man who had turned his back on her without even asking for the truth. By morning, she made one last desperate attempt. She drove to Morgan Biosolutions headquarters and begged security to let her speak with Caleb. "Please," she pleaded, "just tell him I'm pregnant." 10 minutes later, the guard returned, expressionless. "Mr. Morgan says, given your infidelity, he has no reason to believe the child is his. His legal team will contact you about a paternity test." The words crushed her. Evelyn fell to her knees, right there on the marble lobby floor, as behind the tinted glass, she spotted Owen watching coldly from the mezzanine above. That evening, she found herself curled in the back seat of her car in a Walmart parking lot, 6 weeks pregnant and completely alone. But fate had other plans. At sunrise, as she vomited into a nearby trash bin, a silver-haired woman in a denim jacket and gardening gloves approached her with a plastic bag of oranges. "Morning sickness or food poisoning?" the woman asked flatly. Evelyn blinked through tears. "Pregnant, I think. I just found out." The woman nodded. "Then you're either in deep trouble or about to become a warrior." Her name was Eleanor Grant, a retired nurse and widow who had lost her only daughter to cancer. Without hesitation, Eleanor offered Evelyn a room in her small but cozy farmhouse outside Montauk. "You'll be safe here," she promised, "for as long as you need." For the first time in days, Evelyn felt air return to her lungs. Weeks passed. One morning, her doctor confirmed what her symptoms hinted. She wasn't carrying just one baby, twins. As the shock settled into resolve, Evelyn sat on Eleanor's porch with a cup of herbal tea, staring at the endless fields ahead. "They took everything," she whispered. "My home, my name, my future." Eleanor rested a hand on her shoulder. "Then take something back." From that moment, Evelyn began to rebuild. She sold her wedding ring for enough money to buy a used laptop and pay for prenatal care. She started documenting every detail she could recall, every fake message, every odd comment from Owen, every change in Caleb's behavior. She had no idea what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't done yet. As Evelyn's belly grew, so did her determination. Every night, after helping Eleanor with dinner or folding baby clothes donated by local churches, she'd return to the corner of the guest room she'd turned into a makeshift office. There, with nothing but a second-hand laptop and a cracked phone, she began reconstructing her life and uncovering the truth. She cataloged timelines, cross-referenced call logs, pulled bank records she had once casually dismissed. It became clear Owen Morgan hadn't just manipulated her relationship, he had engineered her downfall. And Amelia, she had positioned herself as Caleb's emotional savior, just as Evelyn was pushed away. One afternoon, sitting in a cozy coffee shop with a rare moment of peace, Evelyn overheard two men talking quietly over industry reports. "I'm telling you," one whispered, "those drug trials at Morgan Biosolutions are off." The data was scrubbed. Owen signed off on it himself. Evelyn's hands froze around her cup. They were talking about her research, the cancer therapy she had spent years developing. The same project she had nearly completed before her world imploded. Her instincts kicked in. She knew those numbers better than anyone. Back at Eleanor's, Evelyn pulled out her old trial spreadsheets. The discrepancies were clear as day. Side effects underreported. Patient conditions misstated. It wasn't just fraud, it was dangerous. And suddenly she realized if she hadn't been forced out, she would have found these errors herself. That's why Owen had targeted her, not just because she was married to Caleb, but because she posed a threat to his scheme. That night, Evelyn stood by the window, cradling her growing stomach. "They tried to erase me," she whispered to her unborn children. "But I'm still here, and I'm not done." The very next day, Eleanor took Evelyn to a small community clinic in Brooklyn, run by an old friend. Dr. Rebecca Torres. She was a blunt, brilliant woman who had walked away from Ivy League prestige to serve the underserved. Dr. Torres was unimpressed by reputation, but she was deeply impressed by Evelyn's knowledge. "You're sharp," she said after reviewing Evelyn's notes. "I can't pay you much, but I need help with data analysis. Interested?" "Yes," Evelyn said without hesitation. More than interested. It wasn't glamorous. She worked from a back room filled with boxes, often pausing to soothe a kicking baby or sip ginger tea between charts. But the work brought her back to life. Her mind sharpened. Her confidence returned. And slowly, a pattern emerged. The very medication Morgan Biosolutions was touting as next generation was causing a spike in liver damage, something conveniently missing from their published data. It matched what she'd overheard, matched what she had once believed in. She couldn't take back what had been done to her, but she could stop this. She could protect the patients. She could fight back. And maybe, just maybe, she could build something far stronger than the empire that had cast her out. It started as a whisper, an idea too bold to voice aloud. What if Evelyn didn't just expose Owen's fraud? What if she replaced the empire that discarded her? Late one evening, after reviewing disturbing patient data for the 6th time, Dr. Torres sat across from Evelyn in the clinic's cramped break room, eyes glinting with intensity. "You know," she said, folding her arms, "we could build something. You and me. No corporate strings. No boardroom vultures. Just science. Pure, safe, honest." Evelyn nearly laughed. "We don't have labs. We don't have funding." Torres smiled. "You haven't seen my barn." Turns out, the doctor's property upstate hid a secret, a fully equipped research lab built with her late husband's inheritance. She'd spent years funding rogue biotech experiments, ethical, under-the-radar research most companies wouldn't touch, rare diseases, affordable alternatives. When Evelyn stepped into that barn, for the first time, surrounded by gleaming equipment, her hands trembled. Not from fear, but from awakening. "This is where it begins," Torres said. Over the following months, Evelyn, now using her maiden name, Evelyn Carter, worked tirelessly between baby feedings and research notes. With Torres's guidance, she refined a new cancer treatment, safer, more effective, and drastically cheaper than Morgan Biosolutions' flagship drug. The clinic's early patient data was promising, very promising. When the twins, Ava and Miles, turned 2, Evelyn submitted her first patent. Phoenix Biotech was born. No flashy boardroom, no media blitz. Just 2 brilliant women, a handful of researchers who believed in the mission, and a promise that their medications would never be priced out of reach. Within a year, Phoenix secured a small contract with a regional hospital struggling under Morgan's rising costs. Their results were undeniable. Lower side effects, better outcomes. The industry noticed, but Morgan Biosolutions didn't. Not yet. They saw Phoenix as a blip, a footnote, until the day Caleb's team received news that their largest partner hospital had switched providers. "Who the hell is Evelyn Carter?" Caleb demanded. Owen's jaw clenched. "No one, just a startup." But deep down, something twisted in Caleb's gut. The name, the timing, the silence. He had no idea that the woman he betrayed was now quietly building a revolution. One patient, one formula, one life at a time. As Phoenix Biotech expanded, so did Evelyn's resilience. She was no longer the woman sobbing in a parking lot, clutching a pregnancy test. She had grown into a quiet force, graceful, determined, and dangerously intelligent. While Ava and Miles thrived in their playful, science-filled world, Evelyn thrived in the lab, developing treatments, mentoring researchers, and building a workplace culture defined by compassion, not profit. She wasn't driven by revenge, but by something far stronger, purpose. Dr. Torres often watched her from across the lab, shaking her head in quiet admiration. "You've rebuilt yourself," she once said, "stronger, smarter, and somehow still kind." Still, Evelyn carried scars. Late at night after the twins were tucked in, She sometimes found herself scrolling through old photos of her wedding, her research awards, her and Caleb smiling like the world couldn't touch them. He had touched her, bruised her, but hadn't broken her. When Phoenix's medication received FDA approval, the announcement made small headlines, but big waves. Hospitals began to call, researchers asked to join, and investors came knocking. That's when the past caught up. A business magazine cover landed on her desk. Caleb Morgan to wed Amelia Thomas at lavish ceremony this spring. The date, exactly 6 years to the day she'd been thrown out. Evelyn didn't flinch. She stood, walked to the window of her high-rise office, and looked out at the city she now helped heal. "They think it's over," she whispered, "but they haven't seen what I've built." Dr. Torres entered the room moments later, holding a thick folder. "Evidence," she said, "of everything. The fraud, the embezzlement, the buried side effect reports. You were right all along." Evelyn stared at the folder, the weight of it heavy in her hands. Not just legally, but emotionally. It wasn't just proof, it was closure. She looked at her reflection in the glass. Calm, powerful, untouchable. "I don't want to ruin him," she said softly. "Then what do you want?" Evelyn turned slowly, her voice firm. "I want him to see what he gave up. I want him to look at his children, our children, and realize he missed every birthday, every first word, because he believed a lie." She paused. "And then I want to walk away, head held high, while the world watches." The day of the wedding dawned perfect. Guests sipped champagne beneath string lights as white roses bloomed across the lawn of Caleb Morgan's estate. A quartet played softly. The air buzzed with anticipation. Then came the low hum of helicopter blades. Heads turned, champagne flutes stilled midair, and at the altar, Caleb's smile faltered. From the sleek black chopper stepped Evelyn Carter, poised and calm, in a navy blue suit that radiated confidence. One hand held her briefcase, the other held the hands of two children, Ava and Miles. The guests gasped. Even from a distance, the resemblance was undeniable. Caleb's eyes, his chin, his fire. Evelyn walked directly toward the altar. "I believe," she said, her voice cutting through the silence, "you forgot to invite your children." Caleb's mother stood abruptly, tears in her eyes. "They're his." Evelyn nodded. "DNA confirmed. Filed with the court last week." Amelia's face turned white. Owen bolted forward, but Evelyn raised her voice again, calm, collected. "Try it, Owen. I have everything. Every bank transfer, every falsified report. The FBI gets the file tomorrow, unless you want it today." That's when Dr. Torres appeared behind her, flanked by two federal agents. The wedding unraveled in seconds. Guests scattered, cameras flashed, agents moved in, and Owen and Amelia were led away in cuffs. Caleb stood motionless, staring at the children he had never known, the family he had erased. "I didn't know," he choked. "You didn't want to know," Evelyn replied. "You let your fear choose for you." He dropped to his knees in front of Ava and Miles. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know you existed." Miles stepped slightly behind Evelyn, but Ava stared at him, unblinking. "Mom says you were smart, but not smart about people." Evelyn knelt beside them. "We're not here to shame you," she said quietly. "We're here to end the silence." Then she stood and turned. As she walked away, hand in hand with her children, the press swarmed. The public would later call it one of the most powerful moments in modern corporate history. But Evelyn didn't care, because as she looked down at her twins, strong, healthy, and loved, she knew she hadn't just survived betrayal. She'd transcended it. She hadn't taken revenge. She'd written a better story. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in fighting back, but in rising above. Evelyn Carter's story teaches us that resilience isn't about revenge. It's about choosing creation over destruction. When her world was shattered, she didn't retaliate in rage. She rebuilt in silence. She let her work speak louder than her wounds. True empowerment comes from taking the pain meant to break you and turning it into something powerful, purposeful, and pure. Evelyn didn't just reclaim her voice, she amplified it through impact, through her children, her company, and her integrity. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant refusing to be defined by betrayal. She chose peace without losing her power, and in doing so, she showed us that redemption isn't just for the one who wronged you, it's for you too. If you've ever been betrayed, underestimated, or cast aside, remember Evelyn. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need revenge to prove your worth. Let your actions become the answer. Let your growth be the rebuttal. Start small. Rebuild your confidence. Surround yourself with people who see your value, even when you're at your lowest. Document what you've learned, not to retaliate, but to transform. Whether it's a business, a boundary, or a brand new life, create something meaningful. Let the life you build in the aftermath become your quiet, undeniable victory. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.